It's not vaporwave. That's right. Yes. Silksong is finally out, and with that, Christopher Larkin returns with another soundtrack. So today I'm going to react to give you my first impressions of the song, Cogwork Dancers. Let's check it out. Boom! Okay. Very identifiable theme. That sounds like a clock ticking. Beautiful melody. It's fantastic, mate. Okay, let's pause it right there and let's talk about this a little bit. Now, the first thing that I would like to talk about, which I already kind of mentioned during the reaction, is that there is an extremely identifiable theme right off the get-go. It's very identifiable at the beginning, and then it transforms or elaborates towards more of a phrasing instead of the main melody. But I think the main melody is basically something like this. Something along those lines, and then it takes that melody and uses it as a core to elaborate the phrase after that. It is a very beautiful melody, but in its essence, you know, in its core, it's sounds, there is a little bit of darkness in it, you know. It's a little bit of gloominess in it. In addition to that, we also have that sound design element in the music, which is the clock-like sound. And, you know, it figures because the song is called Cogwork Dancers. So, you know, clocks have gears and cogs, especially the mechanical ones, of course. It gives the track a vibe of, I don't know, diesel punk, or quite literally like clock punk, if such a thing exists. And also, while I was listening to the track, there was something that reminded me of Lies of P for some reason. And I do think that the track so far has the potential to be like a crossover track for in between Silksong and Lies of P, something like that. Can you imagine that could happen? But returning to the point where I was talking about the clock-like sound, you know, the gears, the cog, this is giving me like some sort of theme or motif that could be potentially be like a spearhead, or quite literally the main thread of storytelling in the music, because it's always there. At least so far, it's always there. You know, it's always clocking or ticking or whatever you want to call it. And you know, here's the melody. It's very pretty, and you know, the composition is very elegant, I would say. But that clock gear sound gives me the motif of precision, themes of mechanical themes, surgical, methodical, you know, something very precise. So as far as I understand, this is a boss battle theme, and what I would say as a blind guess is that the boss battle, it relies or is about precision, being very methodical, not necessarily from your part, but it's like the storytelling thread that the boss has. Maybe this boss, the backstory is someone that has like an insane attention to detail, or it's related to time, you know, it's all about time. But at the end of the day, it's something of a very surgical, you know, whatever it is the case. If it is a lot of attention to detail, maybe to the point that is obsessive, compulsive, obsessive, you know, which for bosses, great. It's a fantastic kind of theme to have, right? Then it goes along those lines. Calculated flair, let's put it like that. Something else that I want to mention before we keep listening to the track is that there is a tempo change in it, which leads me to believe that there's, a change in between a first phase to a second phase. And, the tempo it's higher. So the song gets faster, which adds just by the tempo change itself adds more stakes. It's more, the fight becomes more dangerous. I really like the theme, so let's see if I can do something with it. All right, let's keep listening. Another tempo change. Oh. Mate, I love the woodwinds. Drop me some more. Those drones are awesome. Strings became more aggressive with that change in the articulation. What the... There's another phase in the fight. What? That's the resolution of the track. That's insane, mate. Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, let's start by mentioning that this time around, the soundtrack of the game is not a string quartet, but instead they're making the use of a full orchestra. Okay, so I think it's important to point out, because this was something that I did notice in some of the trailers of the game itself, but at the end of the day I couldn't really say for sure that was going to be the case for the soundtrack of the game, because for trailer purposes, the music can be a full orchestra for, to be more impactful. It's the trailer, you want to get the people hyped up and whatnot. But they actually decided to go into the full orchestra territory. This storytelling wise, maybe because the game is more vast and it's less intimate than Hollow Knight and dives into the bigger spectrum of what the world of Hollow Knight is. So the full orchestra is there to support that storytelling. That's my guess. Something else that I couldn't stop thinking about was one of the latest parts of the cues of the song, when the strings go something along those lines. It reminded me a lot of Mantis Lords from the Fierce game, So maybe I could do an A/B comparison here and see if they are actually very similar. Something else that I liked a lot was the inclusion of woodwinds in the composition. Woodwinds is one of my favorite sections in an orchestra. They are using as a beautification element, but also they do like runs and whatnot. That already makes me like the song even more. And do you remember what I was talking about, the tempo change and how that increased the stakes in the fight? Well, in this case, we also have the strings doing that, because we hear the strings doing the the spiccatos, which makes the song have even more determination and increases the tension of the whole track, which leads me to believe that the track has no more than two phases. We have a tempo change that that increases, that goes to the second phase, and then we have a change in how the strings are playing the chords or the harmony. So that signals like an increase in the tension and the stakes of the fight, but not necessarily just in the tempo, but also in one of the ensembles of the music. But we also have the woodwinds as well, you know, doing those incredible beautification elements like the runs and whatnot. Now let's talk about the resolution of the track, which is probably one of the most interesting parts of the song. Well, the first thing why I was so shocked by it is because it's like the change is very jarring, but not in a bad way. I don't know if the resolution of the track is like a final phase of the fight, but what I think, or what I could envision as the ending of the fight, is that the boss, it's almost defeated, and it's in a very bad state. You know, it's almost defeated, but you still need to kill the boss. But it almost makes you feel like sorry for it in a way. That last cue for the resolution of the track, it's very tragic. So I don't know if Christopher Larkin is trying to give us a little bit of sympathy or empathy towards this character based on the storytelling and whatnot. Maybe this boss fell prey to its own obsession of all being on time or being very precise and whatnot, and that led the boss towards madness or something like that. But initially the character wasn't doing those kind of things for evil purposes or to hurt anybody, but it became so much of an obsession that it led him astray onto another path. The final cue is trying to tell us that you know, that character used to be something, then became something else, and that ending cue is like the swan song of someone that could have been so much good and great in the world, but eventually was defeated by, well, not only you, but his own self. And in a way, I can't stop but think that, you know, this boss battle is like a clock that works very precise. You know, like that clock that is in Prague is, you know, like huge. Or even those wrist clocks, mechanical clocks that are extremely precise, you know, and they're very well crafted, you know, that are super expensive. But towards the end of the track, it's like the clock starts to tick in a way that is unsustainable. You know, maybe the clock was designed to clock at a certain speed, but when you accelerate the clocking or the ticking of the clock, then it starts to get into a sort of an unstable territory. And that's the reason why that is because you start to fight this boss and you agitate its clockwork inner clocking workings or something like that to a point, or to such a stress point, that it starts to become broken. So the cogs start to, I don't know, malfunction or melt or something, and then it starts to, you know, basically become unusable or you know, damaged. So it's like, you know, the whole song is upheld by the cogs, but ultimately it's barely standing on its feet, so, you know, with a couple of cogs working. And that's how the resolution of the track sounds to me. I'm going to actually watch the fight with the Cogwork Dancers. I'm going to say the spoiler alert, of course, right now. I'm going to watch the full fight. So in case you're still playing the game or you haven't reached this point of the game, mind you, this is a spoiler. So from this point forward, it's spoilers, okay?
Friend.
Okay. Yeah, well, we have the cogs there. It does look pretty mechanical. Yeah, I can hear like mechanical sound effects when they're like moving to the music. And when you hit them, they are actually shedding cogs. You know, now that I think of it... Wait. Probably going to another phase, right? Okay, it's like they get into this and they get readjusted. Okay. Maybe they get readjusted for the fight. So they say, okay, this is a foe like no other, so we have to readjust the cogs so we can fight this foe. So readjust to make us more powerful or something. Okay, readjust. More power. Okay, third phase. You know, now that I think of it, it reminds me of Mantis Lord's compositional wise, but also the fight is, you know, two characters. Mantis Lords was also a multi-boss fight. Maybe a motif connection in between the two. Okay, one defeated. We're going to listen to the resolution. We're listening to the final cue. We listen to the phase 4 when you defeat one of them. You know, as one of them lies dead in the floor, then it becomes a little bit more sad, tragic. Okay, yeah, that was very interesting. Well, I guess I wasn't so far off in what some of the things that I was saying, but obviously there's probably more lore about the characters in this boss fight than, well, what I just said. Alright, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and give it a hype. As it turns out, YouTube is rolling a new feature, so remember, like and hype. And also subscribe, okay? And don't forget to watch this other Hollow Knight video that I did, okay? I'll see you there.